So these are external, so to say, because yam niyam is just do's and don'ts, as we have seen, and asana is just the way of sitting, how we should sit while practicing yoga. That is not very complicated. We have seen that last time. And pranayama or breath control, we have gone into that in detail, and during our retreat we practiced some practical lessons on pranayama also. Now the last four which remain: Pratyahara, Dhyan, Dharana and Samadhi. So from here we start going inwards. We start trying to go deeper within ourselves, which is the goal of yoga, not only yoga but every kind of spiritual practice. So all these things which we have been discussing from last few classes, yam, niyam, asana, pranayam, etc., all these are the preparations which lead to meditation and of course finally to samadhi, which is our goal. So from pratyahara we start going inwards, and this is very, very important. Today's discussion is very important because it lays the foundation of spiritual life, whichever path we may follow. It lays the foundation of religious life, spiritual life, and especially when we study the Gita without having a good idea of what pratyahara is, what's its importance is, it is not possible to understand a good deal of the Gita. So when we connect it up, we will realize that fact. So today's discussion is extremely important, and it is a little difficult also. So I will just request your attention, because many things which we will be discussing may be new to many of us. Now, before going deep into the topic, first, to understand pratyahara, we have to understand how we perceive. We have already discussed this in some detail, but it will be useful to recapitulate in a short form. How do perceptions come? Suppose seeing, when we see something. So we have eyes, we think that eyes see, but only the eyes don't see. If the brain center which is in the head, if that stops working, the eyes may still be there in perfect condition, but we will not see. And the proof is that during this COVID, it has happened to many people, and one person I have heard of myself. COVID affected some of the brain centers of that person. So even though her eyes were in perfect order, because COVID affected the brain centers, her eyesight were affected. So this means that only the eyes are not sufficient. Eyes are only a secondary instrument, not the organ of vision. The organ of vision is in a nerve center of the brain. But besides these two, a third thing is also necessary. The eyes, the organs, but a third condition is also necessary if you want to perceive something. What is that? The mind should be joined to that organ. So suppose we are sitting in a room, we are concentrating deeply on something. So some car may pass by, but we don't hear the sound. Somebody may call us, we don't hear him. What is happening? The our ears are in perfect condition. The brain centers are also working. But at that time, when there was that sound, our mind was not attached to our organ which is in the brain. So, for perception to be complete, first is the external instrument. These eyes, ears, these are the external instrument. Then the organs which govern this perception, they must be in proper working condition, they must not be damaged. And the third condition is the mind has to be connected to the organ. All these three conditions, when they are satisfied, only then can perceptions occur. So now, what is Pratyahara in short? Pratyahara is the ability to detach the mind from this organ. Detach the mind from the organ at will. Like often we do it unconsciously. Our mind is somewhere else, so it is not attached to the organ. But the ability to detach the mind from the organs or attach it to only one organ. Suppose I want to attach my mind only to the organ of hearing. So I should only hear and not see or smell anything. Suppose I want to attach it to the organ of smelling, that I should only smell, and other organs I will not attach it to. So there will be no other perception. So this ability is Pratyahara. To detach the mind, have such control over the mind, to be able to detach it from all or some of the organs at will. And this is very difficult, but it is very necessary also. So the main thing to remember is what we have to understand, why this is necessary. In almost all of us, the mind is following the organ. The organ is dictating terms. My eyes are open. I am seeing something. So what is happening? My eyes are telling the mind, you have to see. And even if I don't want to, I have to see. So what is happening here? The mind is not controlling the organ. The organ is controlling the mind. So wherever the organ goes, the mind also follows. And this is not a desirable condition for spiritual life, because the mind is a slave to the organs. The mind has no freedom of its own. So in almost all of us, the mind follows the organ and goes wherever they go. But for one who is practicing Pratyahara, who has gained some success in Pratyahara, the mind is followed by the organ. The mind tells the organ, you will function or not. So the organ is a slave to the mind, not the other way around. That is the thing. And when the mind goes into the niruddha state, that is, there are no thought waves at all, then because the organs follow the mind, the organs also become completely subdued. And that is the goal of yoga. But if the mind continues to follow the organs can never remain still even for a moment. And if the mind follows it, the mind will also never remain still. That is the thing. It is just like tying yourself to a moving vehicle. In India, what do? Like there's some big truck going on or some bus is going on. So people, they are on a sort of skateboard, and they have some rope. So they will just tie that rope to that bus, and when the bus goes, they will enjoy a free ride. Hmm. So the only problem is you have to go as the bus goes. You have no freedom. If the bus is overspeeding, you are finished. You will topple and maybe have an accident. So this is the problem. So if the mind follows the organs, then it can never be still, because the organs are always active if left on their own. That is the thing. So this is very, very essential for all of us who want to succeed in spiritual life. That is why in the Gita, in the second chapter, it says that what is the sign of a man who is perfect in yoga? It says, like a tortoise withdraws its limbs, that person can withdraw all his organs. Kurmongani va sarvasha. Indriyani indriyarthebhya. He draws the indriyas or the organs from what? Indriya artha, the objects of the indriyas. So in the Gita it has been mentioned so many times. It is very, very significant, and without going into detail, it is not possible to understand these verses of the Gita. So even apart from yoga, like few people, very, very few people actually practice yoga sincerely. That is common knowledge. But even for those whose ambition is not only becoming saints or something, but even for ordinary people like us, Pratyahara is very necessary. Why? Swami Vivekananda explains, I quote him, we hear be good and be good, taught all over the world. Everybody teaches us, be good. Our teachers in school teach us, our mothers teach us, our elder brother teaches us, our father teaches us. So there is hardly a child born in any country in the world who has not been told, do not steal, do not lie. But very few tell the child how this can be done, how not to lie, how not to steal. Simply giving instructions will not help. Simply talk will not help. If he asks, how can I stop these inclinations when they come? So we have to teach the children first why not to steal, and then also how not to steal. That is the thing. So how not to steal means controlling the mind, which begins by this Pratyahara. So all actions, internal and external, occur when the mind joins itself to the brain centers. Otherwise, no action can occur. I cannot even perceive anything. Now, willingly or unwillingly, it is drawn to join itself to these centers. Now, when it is joined in spite of ourselves, when we don't want it to join, then we commit mistakes. We commit mistakes, we feel miserable afterwards. But if these organs were under our control, then what would have happened? They would not join themselves to the centers of perception when there was no need for them to do so. And if they don't join that way, feeling and willing will also come under our control. Because everything starts from these perceptions. All problems start from these undesirable perceptions. Now, is it possible to really gain this control? The philosophers of yoga say it is possible. And one who has succeeded in attaching or detaching his mind to and from the centers at will has gained perfection in Pratyahara, which means gathering towards, gathering inwards actually. It is gathering all the things which are going outside against our will. So Pratyahara means gathering towards or gathering inwards, which means checking the outgoing powers of the mind. And by checking that, freeing it from this dictatorship of the sense organs. And when we can do this, Swami Vivekananda says, we shall really possess character. Otherwise, if a person is slave to his senses, doing whatever the senses tell him, then he is already ruined. All the good which is in us has only one basis, that is self-control. If we don't have that control, we are no better than animals, because that is the only thing which differentiates a human being from an animal. So when a person has succeeded in Pratyahara, means what? His mind is completely controlling his organs. His mind is, by regular practice, has come to such a state that it can dictate the organs at will. But this is very difficult. Swami Vivekananda says how hard it is to control the mind. It has been compared to a maddened monkey. There was a monkey, restless by its own nature, we know, as all monkeys are. So, as if that were not enough, somebody gave that monkey some wine to drink. So it became more restless. Then a scorpion stung that monkey. So the poor monkey found his condition worse than ever, and to complete his misery, a demon entered into him. So what language can describe the condition of the monkey there? So Swami Vivekananda says the human mind is like that monkey, which is actually restless by the very nature. Then it has drunk the wine of desire, thus increasing its turbulence. After desire takes possession, comes the sting of the scorpion of jealousy at the success of others. And at last, the demon of pride. I am something, I am such a big person, who is there like me? Then it enters the mind, and we can understand what is the control, what is the condition of the mind. Then we can just see our minds and realize that. So to control such a mind, how difficult it is. That is why Swami Vivekananda says, when he is describing the lessons for meditation, that never try to meditate as soon as you sit. First thing is just sit for a few minutes and let the mind run on. The mind is bubbling up all the time, like a monkey jumping about. So let it run about, but just keep a watch. Try to separate yourself from the mind. So after jumping about, slowly it will come under our, at least we will know what it is doing. And that is a separate thing, so we can do that later. Now, what is the problem here? The problem is that senses are always active. Swami Vivekananda says, as soon as the steam is turned on, the engine must run. And those times, we had steam engine and all that. So, as soon as things are before us, we must perceive. So, a man to prove that he is not a machine, must demonstrate that he is not under the control of anything. What is the difference between a machine and a human being? A machine also does so much work. The difference is a machine will only do what we tell it to do. It cannot do of its own. It is completely bound by our desiring. So if we are also doing what our indriyas desire us to do, if we are also a slave, then what is the difference between us and machines? We are going about blindly. And most of the people spend their lives blindly in this way. They don't even feel the need to gain control over themselves. Just ignore that. Ignore it. So this controlling of the mind and not allowing it to join itself to the centers is pratyahara. And it is very difficult to practice. Only after a patient, continuous struggle for years, we can succeed even a little. So pratyahara is nothing but control of the organs, and success in yoga is not possible without that control. So many scriptures, they are full of these descriptions. I will just quote one or two. Vishnu Purana says, the yogi who is devoted to the practice of pratyahara should restrain the senses which are attached to the objects of sound, etc., and make them follow the mind instead. Then it says, Vashyata paramatena jayate nischala atmanam. Those of undisturbed mind have the highest possible control of the senses. And indriyanam avashyai, those whose senses are not under control, tair na yogi yoga sadhaka. Yoga sadhaka, he cannot be. He cannot be a sadhaka. He cannot practice yoga if he does not try to control his sense organs. That is the thing. So now we will go into the Yoga Sutras and discuss the definition of Pratyahara as it is given there. So first we will just study the few lines which Swami Vivekananda has written that. So in defining Pratyahara, he says, the drawing in of the organs is by their giving up their own objects. The senses are drawn in means what? They are forced to give up the objects to which they are attached. That is the thing. We practice this unconsciously every day. Now we go to the shopping mall. So many hundreds of thousands of things are there. So we don't go and purchase everything. First we have to see how much money is there in our pocket. Second, we have to also see whether those things which we purchase will be beneficial to us or not. So I am a diabetic, I am seeing some wonderful ice cream or sweet or something there. My eyes go there. So what do? If I find that no, it is not possible for me to purchase and it is not good for me to eat that, what do? First of all, what do? We look the other way. Don't we do that? Because if we keep looking, then problems may come. That is an instinctive reaction. We all do that. We look the other way. So what are we doing here? We are drawing away our organ from the objects to which they are attached. So you see, we are practicing it nearly every day, or at least when we are going to shop, we are practicing it. So this is on a very cursory level. The only thing is we have to go deeper so that we can also do this on a subtler stage. That is the thing. So here the main thing is what happens. The organs identify themselves and take the form of whatever comes to them, whatever comes within the field of their perception. I see a book. What happens? The mind takes the form of that book. I see a movie, the mind becomes completely engrossed in that movie. We actually become characters of the movie, as it were. We laugh when they laugh, we cry when they cry. So what is happening? Through the organs, sound, seeing, through the organs, the mind is going out. To where? Where does it go? To the objects to which the organ are attached, and it takes their form. But if we can restrain the mind, if we can restrain the chitta, we have already discussed what the chitta is, the mind stuff. If we can restrain it from taking these forms, the mind will remain calm. If we cannot do it, the mind will always remain disturbed. And this restraining is Pratyahara. Because the indriyas or the organs are always acting outwards and coming in contact with external objects, bringing them under the control of the will. That I tell you to do this, you cannot do otherwise. Bringing under the control of the will is called Pratyahara. So Pratyahara is a gathering toward, a gathering inward, and it is an attempt to get hold of the mind and focus it on the desired object, not focus it on the thing to which the organ is attached. That is the problem. So if our eyes get attached to everything we see in the shopping mall, then we are in a difficult situation. So we have to withdraw it. We have to tell the mind that no, I have come to take only this, I need only this, I will not look at other things. So this also is a kind of Pratyahara, but yogic Pratyahara is much more difficult, we can realize, and it goes much deeper. So now, what is the Pratyahara which yogis want to practice? Those who want to concentrate all their energies in attaining freedom or developing spiritually. What is the kind of Pratyahara they practice? So now I'll just show the image. Of course, it is in the original is in Sanskrit, but the translation is also given. So here you can see, and those who are present here. So these are the original Yoga Sutras. So the commentary says, now what is Pratyahara? And the definition given in Sanskrit you can see, and the English translation is also given. So, Swavishaya asamprayoge chittasya swarupa anukara iva indriyanam Pratyahara. So when we translate, it won't be so difficult. Swavishaya asamprayoge. This is the main thing. When separated from Swavishaya means from its own objects. So the eyes is separated from all things which can be seen. The ears are separated from all which can be heard. So when this happens, when the organs are separated from their objects, then what happens? Chittasya swarupa anukara. They take the form of the mind. Now what is happening? The mind is taking the form of the objects to which the organs are attached, because the mind is following the organ. But when this connection between the organs and the object is cut off, then what happens? Then the organs follow the mind. Organs following the mind means the organs are taking the shape of the mind as it were. So when separated from their corresponding objects, the organs follow as it were the nature of the mind. Chittasya swarupa. And when that happens, then Pratyahara is attained. That is the thing. So I know this sounds a little complicated because it is difficult to understand. But when we go into a little more detail, we will have a clearer idea, and those ideas will be repeated. So now let us go into a little detail what this definition really means. This Svavishaya asamprayoge, at the time when there is no contact of the sense organs with their objects. That is the thing. So there are various beautiful commentaries on this verse. So I'll just explain this with the help of one of those commentaries. So what is Pratyahara and how is it attained? When is that state attained? It says when our mind is not connected with the objects of the organs. In Sanskrit they say Shabda Adi Vishaya. Shabda means sound. So here Shabda means this organ of hearing to which it is attached. Now there are 5 such objects to which our 5 organs, hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, etc. are attached. So those are sound, etc., all those objects. So when the mind is not connected to those objects, and what are the characteristics of those objects? It has been beautifully said. Those objects are, in Sanskrit, first it is mohaniya. Moha means it produces delusion. When seeing those objects, we lose all sense. Whether we should take it or not. A person, suppose he has decided to quit smoking. So many days he does not smoke. Then his friend comes and starts smoking in front of him. So what happens? His organs are getting attached to the pleasure which he has experienced before. And that is triggered by what? His eyes, because they are seeing that friend smoking. Then because he is so attached, moha, he forgets his resolve. He forgets the condition of his lungs and starts smoking again. So these objects are mohaniya, means they cause delusion. And ranjaniya means they seem to cause happiness. We think, oh, it is such a pleasurable thing, pleasurable sensation. It may be some kind of pure happiness also. Everything does not have to be bad. Like when we see some natural scenery, some beautiful mountain, etc. then there is a kind of higher joy. And so these objects are what? Mohaniya, Ranjaniya, and third, Kopaniya. Kopa means anger. These objects also produce anger. When? When we don't get them. We go to a friend's house, we see his palatial home, we see all kinds of objects of enjoyment. And what happens? Oh, I wish I could have those. Then they become causes of depression, they become the cause of anger. So when the organs are not connected with these objects which cause delusion, which we think to be the source of pleasure, and which may also cause anger. So when the organs are not connected to those, when they are following the mind, when they are following the dictates of the mind, when they become like the mind or chitta, and if the mind is concentrated, those organs also become concentrated as it were, because they are following the mind. Then Pratyahara is attained. So when the mind is not connected with those objects, then there is no thought wave corresponding to those objects. It is as simple as that. See, if we desire something, first of all the organs has to see that, the mind has to follow that, then the thought wave has to be created. I see a chocolate ice cream, so what happens? The organs see, then the mind, in the mind there is a thought wave. This is a chocolate ice cream. After that comes everything else. Oh, this is very nice, this must be tasty, I must have that, etc. Everything comes. So in Pratyahara, what do? They cut off the source itself. They say, if the organs are not connected at all to the objects, then there will be no thought wave in the mind. If there is no thought wave, then automatically the mind is controlled. This is the thing. So when there is no such thought wave corresponding to the senses, then automatically the sense organs also come under control, because they are following the mind. So this is the definition of Pratyahara. What is the definition? That when the organs are separated from their objects, the organs follow the mind instead of the mind following the organs. And when the organ follows the mind, the dictates of the mind, they come under our control, then it is Pratyahara. Now, for this definition, there may be an objection. What is that objection? In the definition, it is said that when the organs are separated from their objects, then that person is supposed to have attained Pratyahara. Now the objection will be there that if a person is separated from the objects, if I don't go to the shopping mall at all, then what is the difference in that state between me and a saint? Because at that time I am also a saint. Because I am not seeing those objects, my mind automatically is not taking their forms. So according to this definition, that if the mind has no connection with the objects of the senses, that is Pratyahara. If that is Pratyahara, then all of us have attained Pratyahara. Because if we are sitting inside our home and our organs are not in contact with the objects, there is no thought wave at all of the objects. So what is the difference between a yogi and an ordinary person then? Because when the connection is not there, then everybody is a yogi. So how does this definition stand? But this definition is correct, it is not incorrect. Why? Because unfortunately, even when the connection is cut, all of us are not yogis. Why? Why? Answer? Memory. And the attachment is still there. So what happens? At the time of meditation of one who has not controlled his sense organs, if he tries to concentrate his mind, even at that time, the mind will keep on running towards that object. We will keep on thinking, oh, I should have purchased that, I should have eaten that, next time if I go, I will surely get that. Like in our younger days, what would happen when we had exams and all? So our parents would tell, hey, no seeing television, no seeing movies, you sit in a room and study. But what will happen? You lock the room from outside, but when you're studying, the mind is there on a cricket match or something like that. So that is very common. So this is the difference. That in ordinary persons, even though physically you may cut off the connection, but that doesn't help. Because why? Because of the attachment, the organs are still imagining those things. The mind is still imagining those things. What the organs had seen. The organ doesn't imagine, actually the mind imagines. But the previous experiences of the organs to which we are attached, the mind keeps on cogitating that. But of one who has controlled his sense organs, at the time of meditation, what happens? They completely withdraw and become one with the mind, which has become one with the object of meditation. So when a Jitendriya, one who has controlled his organs, when he meditates, what will happen? The mind will take the form of the object of his meditation. If he is meditating on God, mind takes the form of God. And the Indriyas also, because they are following the mind, they also take the form of the mind. So his whole being gets concentrated on the object of meditation. Those yogis, they do not imagine another object at that time. Because their mind has completely withdrawn. The mind follows the course of total restraint, which is called Nirodha. And because the mind follows the course of restraint, the sense organs also don't need to be controlled by any other effort. Automatically they become controlled because they follow the mind. So the organs follow the mind means what? Organs follow the mind means that just by restraining the mind, the organs are also restrained. So the cause of restraint of both, dvayor nirodha hetu, is what? Prayatna tulya. The same prayatna, the same effort brings both under control. That is the thing. Dvayor nirodha hetuscha prayatnas tulya iti sadrishyam. That is how the organs become one with the mind. So whichever direction the mind is willfully turned, the senses will follow the mind. And when the mind is fixed on an internal thing, like in meditation, the senses will also no longer perceive external objects. And similarly, when the mind is fixed on an external object, one particular organ, then the other organs will not disturb him. So if a yogi concentrates his mind, suppose on something which he is seeing, the other organs will not distract him, because he has perfect control over which organ he should use and at what time. So other sense organs refrain from all activity related to other objects. That is the thing. So eyes will not hear at that time, nose will not smell, tongue will not taste. If he wants only to concentrate his mind to something which is seen. So this actually is possible. In Swami Vivekananda's life, there is an incident that once he was reading in America, he was reading a book, Charles Dickens' Pickwick Papers. So his host, he was staying with a devotee at that time. So his host entered the room and called him many times, Swamiji, Swamiji, Swamiji. Swamiji did not respond. Then afterwards, the host told him, Swamiji, I was calling you. What? You were calling me? I'm sorry, I did not hear. He actually did not hear. And then when asked what part of the book he was reading, he quoted paragraph after paragraph. Because his mind was not going in any other direction but that. So Swami, another disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Sardananda, if I don't know how many of you have gone to Mayarbadi, mother's house in Bagh Bazaar. So all those who have gone there know that it is a very small building. You enter through a gate, and on the left side of the gate there is a very small room. And then there is a gallery through which you go to the shrine. So it is a very, very small and congested place. And Swami Sardananda ji was not only the head of Udbodhan at that time, he was the general secretary of the whole Ramakrishna order. And mother was there at that time. And all people were constantly coming to see the mother. So many people were coming to meet him. And he used to sit in that office. Under those conditions, he wrote that fantastic creation of his fantastic book, Sri Ramakrishna the Great Master, or which is in Bengali it is Ramakrishna Leela Prasanga. Just if we want to study that book in detail, it will require at least 3 or 4 years. That book he wrote. So somebody asked him, Swamiji, so many people are coming, talking this, that, mother is upstairs at attendance, so how would you concentrate? He said, no problem. When I sit to write down, I tell my organs, I tell my ears, don't hear. That's all. For them it is very simple. So this is the unbelievable condition of those who have succeeded in this practice of Pratyahara, who have mastered this. They can at will disconnect the organs from their corresponding objects. That is the thing. So the principal methods for the practice of Pratyahara is, first we have to remain unattached to external objects as far as possible. Because if the organ is attached to that, you cannot stop the mind from following. It is impossible. When you badly desire something, how can you stop the mind from going outwards toward that object? It is not possible. This is the first thing. And second thing is, at the same time, try to direct the mind inwards. Pratyahara cannot be practiced unless the habit of concentrating only outside, intently seeing something, or even thinking about things which are unnecessary. If we don't give up that habit, Pratyahara can never be practiced. This is the thing. Actually, it can be artificially induced also. Like sometimes when a person is hypnotized. So what happens? All his senses automatically go inside. He may not see anything. He just answers the question of the hypnotist. But that is not recommended. Because he is not doing of his own free will. His mind is being controlled by someone else. So like this, there are various kinds of pratyahara mentioned in the scriptures. Various kinds, of this detaching the organs from their objects. And then finally, in the Yoga Sutras, it is mentioned which is the best kind of pratyahara. There may be many kinds, like I told you, or going to the shopping mall. That is also kind of pratyahara. But we should not think just by doing that we have mastered pratyahara. That is just a primary stage, the most primary stage. So the best kind of pratyahara is called yogic pratyahara. It is entirely self-regulated. That pratyahara is done by sheer will. That is the thing. So through the practice of pranayama also for a long time, this tendency to, this ability to withdraw the organs from their objects, this ability develops. Because through the control of breath, we gain some sort of control over the organs also. So one method is practicing of pranayama also. But of course with that there should be detachment. Otherwise even 1,000 pranayams there won't be of any help. And also pratyahara is easier for those who very strictly practice yama and niyama. Because yama and niyama are controlling the external organs. Not stealing, not lying, etc., etc. All these are control on a gross level. So when we have succeeded a great deal on that, then only we can try on a subtle level. Before that, it is foolish to try also. So all these are steps. All these external things which we have discussed in the earlier discussions, they lead to this. Pratyahara leads to dharana, dharana leads to dhyana, which leads to the final goal. That is the thing. So pratyahara in the form of suspension of activities of the senses is very helpful and in fact very necessary if we want to practice meditation at all. So if we don't understand this, we will be misled by many things which are being claimed and many things which people are preaching thanks to nowadays all this media and all. That few days ago, a devotee sent me an advertisement. The advertisement of a retreat somewhere. So what they are teaching is given in a list, and one of the things which they are supposed to be teaching is what? Walking meditation.
It's pretty popular.
Walking meditation. I don't know in what sense the word meditation is used.
And open eyes meditation.
Yeah, open eyes meditation. So I don't know what is how they interpret as what as meditation.
Swami Vimohananda had walking meditation here.
So that cannot be
Inside
meditation.
the forest throughout your.
If meditation is actually what we mean by meditation, dhyana, it is not possible.
More like mindfulness.
So we can only term it as walking contemplation. Walking meditation is a contradiction in terms. Because meditation is going inside. If your eyes are open, automatically your mind is going outside through the organ of vision. So if you try to meditate, you'll most probably break your neck. Because you'll fall, you won't see where you're going. So all these things are going on. So we should be really alert. People are interpreting in whatever way they like. So if what we call dhyana is meditation, then we have to close our external organs first. Now if we sit for meditation in the middle of the road, can you meditate there? Because the mind is going out through the ears all the time. So many vehicles are going. Why do we close our eyes during meditation? Because our eyes are the most powerful organs. If the eyes are open, you have to see, unless you are a very great soul. Like in some disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Shivananda, it actually happened. His mind was on such a level that even though his eyes were awake, he could not see. That is a very, very high, that we can forget about that. So unless we have reached that state, we should not try this walking meditation and all that. So this is what is Pratyahara. Now, to understand it, various kinds of Pratyahara, some I have already mentioned to you. So in the Yoga Sutras, they describe this after defining Pratyahara. The next aphorism, the next sutra, describes what is the best kind of Pratyahara. So, commenting on that sutra, Swami Vivekananda says, first I will read his explanation, then we will go into detail. So he says, when the yogi has succeeded in preventing the organs from taking the form of external objects and in making them remain one with the mind stuff, then comes perfect control of the organs. And when the organs are perfectly under control, every muscle and nerve will be under our control. Because the organs are the centers of all sensations, of all actions. Now, in the original sutra, on the original aphorism, these various kinds of pratyahara are not mentioned, but in the commentary which Vyasadeva has written on that, they are mentioned. So we will just discuss that. So one kind of pratyahara is said to be when we are indifferent. We are not attached to sights and sounds, etc. Then we can be said to have gained control of the organs. Others say, some other definition of pratyahara, they say that we can enjoy objects which are not forbidden by these scriptures. That is as good as pratyahara. So if we enjoy some objects belonging to our neighbor without permission, that is not pratyahara, because we'll have to go to jail. But they say that if you enjoy some object which is yours, which is not against the scriptures, then even though you enjoy them, you can be said to be practicing pratyahara. Then there is another definition that control of the organs means pratyahara means application of the senses to objects like sound, etc. out of one's own free will. That what we have seen in the life of Swami Sardanand Ji and all. They can apply their mind to any, attach the mind to any one organ also if they like. They can withdraw the mind from all other organs. That is also a kind of pratyahara. Another kind of pratyahara is mentioned that experiencing all the objects of the senses without feeling happiness or misery because of that. Although enjoying, but because we are completely unattached, if we are unattached, then those kinds of things will not produce any reaction in us. So when there is no reaction produced, that is as good as not enjoying. So this has been mentioned in the Gita, that what does the yogi does? Although everything enters through his organs, but he is not affected because he has no attachment. That is another kind of pratyahara. But the last one, which is the final stage, what is that? It says the supreme form of pratyahara, when the mind completely ceases its activities, and because the senses are following the mind, the senses also stop all activity. That is the highest state. That is actually the goal of Pratyahara, which has been mentioned as a kind of Pratyahara. So this is the goal for which we are aiming. That the mind, by habitual practice of going inside and not being allowed to go outside through these organs and then the external instruments. When by long practice the mind is always going inside, it attains the state of meditation, it attains the state of perfection in meditation, and then finally, when there are no thought waves at all, then what happens? There is no question of the sense organ being active at that time. That is the highest state or the niruddha state. So when the mind has its modifications restrained, then automatically there is the restraint of the activities of the sense organs also. It automatically follows. So this is what Pratyahara is, what are the benefits and how it can be practiced. So to sum up, I will just quote Swami Vivekananda again. First are the external senses. What we see, this is the external sense, this is the external sense. So external senses are the visible organs situated in different parts of the body. But the actual organs are intangible. We have external eyes, ears, nose and so on. But corresponding to them, we have the internal organs also. Now ordinarily, we are continuously at the beck and call of both these. Internal organs also, through them the external organs. Because corresponding to these organs, there are objects. Corresponding to my tongue, there are delicious pizzas, there are delicious ice creams and all that. So the sense will go there, the organs will follow, the mind will follow. So we are at the beck and call of these objects. If the sense objects are nearby, the senses compel us to perceive them. We have no choice. All these senses, external or internal, now must be under our control. By hard practice, we have to arrive at the stage where we can assert our mind against the senses, against the commands of nature. We should be able to say to our mind, "You are my mind. I order you, do not see or hear anything," and the mind will stop those activities. In that state, the mind has become free of the domination of the senses, has become separated from them. No longer is the mind attached to the senses or the body. So the external things cannot order the mind now. The mind says, "No, I will not attach myself to them. So only when we start practicing this, we can ever hope to even start our meditation. Because if the mind is always going outward, we cannot sit even for 5 minutes then. All the senses will be pulling us outwards. So slowly, this power has to develop by practice. And it can never develop if we don't give up the attachment to sense objects. That is the problem. That is the main problem. It may be easy to sit, close our eyes and sit down. That is okay. But inside that monkey is going on. Without genuine renunciation, that mind can never be still, even if we stop the external sense. That is the thing. So, I will just sum up very briefly what we have discussed today in a chart. So here you can see, for those who are present. So first point, no perception can occur if the mind is not joined to the organs. That we all know, it's common sense. And the ability to detach the mind from the organs or attach it to only one organ is called Pratyahara. So, what does Pratyahara mean? It means gathering towards or gathering inwards, checking the outgoing powers of the mind, freeing it from the thraldom of the senses, from the dictates of the senses. If this is not done, the mind will always be a slave to the senses, and attaining freedom will be absolutely impossible. And the fourth and the most important for people like us, success in Pratyahara is not possible till we continue to search after sense pleasures. If we willingly tell the senses, go outside and search for this or that, then how is Pratyahara possible? Very impossible. Because we are directing it outward. Our desires are taking the senses outward through these organs. So again we come to the same thing, renunciation. That is the alpha and omega. Everything all the parts of spiritual life you study, ultimately we come to this. This is what spiritual life is. This self-control, giving up the lower things for the higher things. So, along with our spiritual practices, whatever we do, prayer, meditation, japa, any type of meditation, whatever we do, this has to be there. This feeling in our mind that the pleasures of the world itself, is absolutely insignificant compared to the object which we are seeking, which is God. If that feeling is not there, then how can the mind be goaded to that aim? It will always continue to go out, because it will think that outside there are so many beautiful things to enjoy. Why should I give up all that? So, this is the thing. I know it is a little difficult, but we will discuss this again and again when we discuss scriptures like Gita and all. And this discussion, what we have had today, this lays the foundation of understanding those statements of the Gita which deal with control of the organs. Like in the Gita it is mentioned, Indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham mana. Indriyani haranti, they kidnap the mind. So without understanding this, what we have discussed today, we cannot understand what the Gita means when it says that. So this is a very important discussion when we now we start going inwards through Pratyahara, we start going inwards in Ashtanga Yoga. So next three things remain: Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi. So I will just see, maybe we can, I think one discussion should be enough for that. Samadhi we can leave out for the time being. we better concentrate on these things. Yeah. So let us end here. It has been a rather, I think, grueling, Abaji says, mind-boggling discussion. Okay. So Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna